current time period, 345 to 415, is related to the portfolio of early years and childhood development. The Minister appearing again is the Minister for Education. Estimate of payments as outlined earlier for the Department of Education administered items. I advise that the proposed payments remain open for the examination and refer members to the relevant agency statements. I call on the Minister to make a brief statement, if he so wishes, in regards to these portfolios.
Look, the only comment I'll make is to thank our early childhood educators, especially for the outstanding work that they do in relation to this section. I thanked them earlier in conjunction with the school educators for the extraordinary work that they've done all year, and certainly this area is no less. The only change in personnel we have here is that Carolyn Crozer-Barlow, who's the Executive Director for Early Years and Child Development, now sits at the table, and Rick Purse, the Chief Executive, has taken a step back.
I invite the Lead Speaker of the Opposition to make a brief statement, if he so wishes, in regards to these portfolios.
No opening statement from me.
No opening statement. Therefore, we call on questions from members. The member for Wright.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, are you in the process of privatising the family daycare and respite care programs?
That's all right. We can just take it as a general one. I'm sure I'm not.
I can give you one. Budget paper 4, volume 1, page 193.
So let's be very clear. Family daycare educators are not public servants.
You're still here.
Minister has the call. Minister.
Thank you. So it's important to be really clear. Our family daycare educators in South Australia are not public servants. They are small business operators. They provide there is a public service unit that provides coordination and administrative support to them, but they are not public servants. It is, their service is provided by non-public servants now. It was provided by non-public servants when the Labor Party was in power. Now, the unit in the public service that provides that administrative support is unique in South Australia. Other states do not have that administrative support function provided by a government unit. It's provided in other jurisdictions by the non-government sector or by local government. Last year, I think it was in June or July, the first half of last year, as I understand, we announced that we would investigate whether that was an appropriate administrative oversight group that should stay in government, or whether it would be better provided by the non-government sector. We're exploring that. That process has been underway for more than a year, and I'm looking forward to receiving further advice at the end of that process.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget line. What is proposed to happen to the unit in the department if this, I guess, the market engagement process, which you have commenced, continues?
So, to be clear, in relation to the public servants, they have every protection of their employment that would ever exist, and whether or not that unit will have a function or a purpose really depends significantly on decisions that are still to be made based on advice that is still to be received.
Thank you, Chair. So are you saying, Minister, that even if it were to be private providers providing family daycare and respite care, which I understand is not currently the case in South Australia?
No, that's incorrect. The family daycare itself, the people who are family day carers, who are looking after children, are private providers, have been for years.
And are they all managed under that unit in the department?
So there is an administrative oversight unit in the department, which is what we're talking about.
Right. So, thank you, Chair. Same budget line. So could you perhaps then elaborate on exactly what the change will be if the market engagement process runs its course and, I guess, is approved?
So I think, and I'll take advice if my summary is incorrect, but the market engagement process will identify whether or not a non-government provider or a group of non-government providers, and as I say, interstate, I think this is councils, this is NGOs, I think charities in a number of occasions provide administrative oversight to groups of family day carers. Now, if that arrangement is recommended as a result of there being appropriate people in South Australia, then it'll be considered by government. We're not at that stage yet.
Member for Wright.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget line again. How many staff are in that unit which manages the current providers in the department?
Look, I don't have the exact number, so out of an abundance of caution, I'll take that on notice.
Same
Member
budget
for
line again, Minister. Thank you. So, am I right in assuming then that if this market engagement process goes all the way through, that it will be family daycare and respite care services will be offered exclusively by non-government providers?
The services are currently only offered by non-government providers. Like every single one of those family daycarers is a non-government provider that has a government unit that provides them with some administrative oversight. They're not public servants.
So just to be clear, Minister, are you saying that currently they are non-government providers?
There is a government oversight unit, and so the provider of the overarching service, if you like, is a unit within the Department for Education, and the staff are not public servants. They are indeed non-government private operators, if you like, small businesses, if you like, each of whom reports, it looks after children in their family daycare arrangement. I might ask the Executive Director if she wants to describe it in any way that she thinks would be appropriate.
Yeah, just to add to that, that the department is the approved provider of the 12 services, but that the care is provided by educators and respite care providers who are independent contractors in a relationship with the department.
Member for Wright.
Thank you to you both for your answers. So, referring back to your previous answer, Minister, I understand, though, that the letter that was sent to parents who currently access the service and providers says, and I quote, yesterday I announced the findings from the family daycare market engagement process, which found there was sufficient market interest in a transfer of family daycare and respite care services to a non-government provider. I don't understand how that is consistent with the answer that you gave. Can you explain how it might be?
So the point I'm making is that if there's a confusion, it is in the use of the word provider. So when I talk about the provider of the family daycare, I think of a person who is providing family daycare to a child. And those people are all, as the Executive Director Carolyn described, private contractors, they're non-government operators, and they are all collectively administered under one umbrella, which is a unit in the Department for Education, for the purposes of reporting to, I assume, the ESB. They are the approved provider at that level. So it's the administrative oversight of all of those private contractors. So the letter to parents that would have gone out, I don't have a copy of it here. I'm happy to have a look at it. The letter to parents would, I imagine, have been referring to the provision of care to the child of that parent, and there'll be no change to that. The approved provider in terms of who administers and supports those private providers would transfer in that circumstance from the Department for Education to a non-government provider or providers.
Right.
Member for Wright.
Thank you, Chair. So they are currently non-government and they are being transferred to non-government.
So
Something's inconsistent.
I wonder if I can. There is a unit within the Department for Education that manages, supports a range of private contractors across South Australia. That is as it is now, that it is as it has been for a number of years. Certainly it's how it was for many years before the change in government. Family day carers are non-government private contractors, private providers of service to those children. They're not public servants. There is a unit in the Department for Education that provides them with administrative support, a level of oversight, and that unit is the provider from the point of view of the Education Standards Board.
Thank you, Minister. So when the letter that I referred to talks about a transfer of services or respite care services to a non-government provider, are you saying that it is actually referring to the unit being transferred or the actual people who offer family daycare and respite care?
The service that is currently provided by the unit, that being oversight and support for those family day carers already being not public servants, effectively private contractors.
Thank you, Minister. So what will happen to the existing providers who offer the family daycare and respite care programs in their home?
They will, instead of having administrative oversight and support from a group of people who are public servants working in the education department, instead their administrative oversight and support would come from a non-government provider, as it does in every other state.
Thank you. So nothing else, Minister, will change if this is to go ahead, other than that, for the providers, I mean, like the people who are offering the actual respite care and family daycare in their homes?
I'll take it on notice because it would really probably be informed by whether there's information in the process that's currently underway that might inform that. By the time responses are ready for estimates, we might actually have substantially more information and I can give you a fuller response to that. But substantially, the main change is the logo on the business card of whoever's providing them with that administrative oversight.
Member for Wright.
Thank you, Minister. Has a approach to market commenced, or will that commence? What stage is this transfer of services at currently?
I'm going to ask the Chief Operating Officer of the Education Department, Julianne Rietstra, to potentially provide a response to that one.
We did a market sounding exercise to see that there was interest from the market last year. That was in October of last year. Things were then paused following March 2020, and we are now looking to go ahead with our approach to market based on that original market sounding, but we are going back to confirm that that interest still exists.
Member for Wright.
Thank you, Ms Rietstra, for your answer. Minister, I guess my question now is, in light of the answers provided by you and Ms Crosabalo and Ms Rietstra, why is the department doing this? What is the benefit or upside in these changes?
We want to make sure that every service we provide using taxpayer resources to children and young people in South Australia is of high quality, good value certainly, but of high quality, that giving the best outcomes for our children and young people. No other jurisdiction in Australia has felt that this aspect of the service is most appropriately delivered by public servants in a public service unit. That's nothing to say that they're not doing a fantastic job. They may well be. We were interested in exploring what opportunities there are in the non-government sector, and I'm looking forward to further information coming forward.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget line. So what deficiency is there currently in the current respite care and family daycare program? There is no...
What benefits are there to be identified? What deficiencies are there? They're two sides of the same coin, and I've outlined what we saw as the potential benefits, and if we don't identify benefits, then that leads to a different outcome of if we do.
Sorry, thank you, Minister.
Please wait for the call. Member for Wright.
Thank you, Minister. I will come back to that, though. I don't think you actually did explain what the benefits are. I think you said that you'll explore what they might be. If it sounds to me like you're saying there are no deficiencies, at least that you're aware of, that you're simply going out there just in case someone comes back and shows you a better system, which you don't know whether that exists or not, and you don't know why.
Sorry, is there a question there?
Yeah, well, can you give me a practical example of a benefit that there might be to the agency by making these changes?
I've answered that question.
No, you haven't. No, you have not.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Chair.
Please refrain from the furniture. Member Farrar.
I assume that was involuntary.
It was involuntary. Thank you, Chair. Minister, same budget line, same topic. What would the benefit be to private providers? Why would they want to take over the role that is currently performed by the agency in terms of managing the providers on the ground?
Matter for private providers, I think I went to check with the market if there was an interest, and subsequent to delays related to COVID, I think we're checking again.
Thank you.
Reference the budget line again. It's been some time.
Thank you, Chair. Budget paper 4, volume 1, page 193. Can the Minister rule out any increase in cost for family daycare or respite care services as paid for by families who use those services?
Look, there are cost increases from time to time, whether it's in government or non-government administrative oversight. If there's anything that's specifically relevant to this matter, I'll take that on notice and provide a response.
Thank you, Minister. Same.
Member Farrar.
Budget paper 4, volume 1, page 193. Can the Minister tell us, or perhaps Ms Crosabalo, when the last increase to the cost of family daycare and or respite care was?
Dr Crosabalo informs me we don't have that right here, so we'll take that on notice.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget paper, Minister. Same reference, sorry. Does the Minister know how much an hour of respite care and or family daycare currently costs a family?
Yes, I was looking at that a moment ago. It's between $7 and $12 per hour per child.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Minister. Does the Minister, same budget line, have an opinion on whether or not that is a fair and reasonable price, or whether it should be less, or whether it should be more?
It's less than I'm paying. I think that it's absolutely understandable that families have price in mind when they're looking at these things, and circumstances surrounding families' choice in relation to the service provision that they choose. Cost is obviously always going to be one of those things, and long day care providers have a varying range of prices, and there's a Commonwealth support process that also ensures that the families that are in higher levels of need have higher levels of support from the Commonwealth.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget line again. My understanding of the way that the current system is funded, and happy to be corrected if I am wrong, is that the NDIS provides a base rate, I believe, to the agency, and then the agency, I think, passes some of that on by way of hourly rate to the providers. Do you know? I mean, I accept you may not know that detail yourself, but is that correct?
I assume specifically talking about respite care there rather than broader family
Sorry, yes,
care.
respite care, not family
And
care.
look, I'll take the question on notice so I can provide a full and wholesome, wholesome's the wrong word, a longer and more detailed response to the member than I would otherwise provide.
Farrar.
Thank you, Chair. I might repeat the budget line again. Budget paper 4, volume 1, page 193. Was there anything, Minister, in the market engagement process that made it clear to the potential private providers who have expressed an interest in taking over the management of the scheme that the current hourly rate must stay as it is, or could not be increased, or could not be increased above a certain level?
Notice.
Farrar.
Thank you, Chair. Same budget line. What is there then, and I suspect this will be taken on notice as well, and that's fine, what is there to prevent a private provider keeping the full base rate, and I understand that's something like $52 from NDIS for respite care, and then, I guess, passing on the cost to families at the end to make up for that?
Yeah, look, again, for ensuring that I can provide a full and accurate response, I'll take it on notice.
Thank you.
Farrar.
Thank you, Minister. Same budget line again. Is a concern about the risk of, I guess, managing kids on private premises and also vulnerable kids with a disability and respite care programs part of the consideration in terms of the department making a call to market to see if a private provider may take on the management of the system?
I think I answered this question several times before. We want to look after the interests of our children and young people. We want to ensure that we explore every opportunity to provide the highest level of government support to those children and young people, and if that government support is best delivered by funding and non-government oversight of people who are already non-government contractors, providers of service, then that's the path we'll go down. It's about the kids.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Minister. I'll take you to Budget Paper 4, Volume 1, page 195, the Rural Care Program. Is there any money in this budget to address the shortfall of places at the ELC, Early Learning Centre at Kingston South East?
I might take that one on notice. I remember visiting the Kingston Community School with the member for MacKillop, and this was certainly a matter for discussion with the local group of parents, and I believe people from the council were there and the school, and so I'm just not sure off the top of my head where that's up to, and I don't have that level of detail in my pack, so I'll take that on notice.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Chair. The same budget line, which is Budget Paper 4, Volume 1, page 195, the Rural Care Program. Is the Minister aware of what the wait list is for a space at the Early Learning Centre at Kingston South East at the moment?
I'll take that on notice in the context of the last one.
Same budget line again, Minister. Does the Kingston South East ELC already utilise a two-worker delivery model that I understand from elsewhere in these budget papers has helped to cater for previously unmet need at other locations?
We'll see if we can find out an answer to that before the end of the session, and if we don't get back with the clarity on that, I'll take that on notice. But if we can get an answer before the end of the session on that, then I'll provide it.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Minister. The same budget line again. My understanding is that there was some suggestion at a time that if there were money left over from the builds, the STEM and Building Better School builds at Kingston Community School, that some of that money might potentially be repurposed to create a bigger footprint for the ELC and to co-locate it to the community school. Do you know if any consideration has been given to that, and whether or not there were actually any funds left over from those two fantastic Labor projects?
Be sure the taxpayers were the ones who were paying. I don't believe that there was room in the scope of works for the ELC to be included in terms of the priorities identified by the school.
Minister, I understand that part of the concern at the moment and part of the reason that there is such a wait list at the Kingston Early Learning Centre is due to the size or the footprint of the building there, and they can only accommodate a certain number of children. Are you aware of any plans to increase the size of the current footprint of the Kingston South East ELC to accommodate more children?
I'll ask Dr. Crozer-Barlow to respond, and in doing so, I'll preemptively suggest that we'll check her answer against the earlier questions in case some of the information we've just discovered does answer any of those earlier questions too.
As I'm sure you're aware, the rural care model is in place where there is limited demand for childcare, and what we've seen in Kingston has happened in a number of communities where there's increasing demand for childcare that suggests that you could have a viable, more normal childcare operating arrangement, operating like a community childcare arrangement. So the department's in conversations with the community around supporting them to investigate that particular option. So that would be the appropriate pathway. Rural care is really, when you talk about the one worker or two worker model, rural care is really about providing for it where it's not financially viable under the current Commonwealth arrangements. In response to your previous question, I'm advised that there were 48 children on the waiting list for a place in the rural care placement as of a month ago, and I'm still seeking advice in relation to the number of workers there.
Thank you. Appreciate your answer.
Member Farrar.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, could I take you to Budget Paper 3, Volume 1, page 193, and targets regarding No Jab, No Play? Did the Minister seek an exemption from the commencement of the no jab, no play policy for government preschool sites?
And indeed, I think this has had some fairly significant public ventilation. Just looking for some of the detail in relation to that exemption. So, yes. So the advice from my department was that there were a range of issues that needed to be worked through in implementing the legislation across the department's 383 preschool services. Notably, the department was looking to develop a systematic ICT solution incorporating data sharing from the Commonwealth Australian Immunisation Register. This would have removed the need for manual checking of records at site level and would ensure that provision of records was not a barrier to access for preschool for vulnerable children. While the broad-scale exemption sought was not supported, the Chief Public Health Officer and her staff have worked very closely with the department to resolve issues around vulnerable children who may be immunised but whose families are struggling for a variety of reasons to provide their records. I think these are a group of children who nobody, I don't want to speak on behalf of the member, but I suspect that nobody in the Parliament who voted for the legislation their purpose was to ensure that the paperwork was the only thing. The purpose was to ensure the children were vaccinated. Where we believe that the children were vaccinated but the paperwork might be deficient, we didn't want those children to be excluded. That's the departmental's advice. Was therefore to seek exemption for the remainder of the year to ensure that those children would not have their preschool interrupted. So the department has also implemented the first phase of an ICT solution that allows preschool services to record and report children's immunisation status through the early years system. I imagine in future the acronym EYS in this context will presumably pass into common discussion in these discussions. So EYS, the early years system, is one of our ICT solutions. A fully automated solution requires further work with the Commonwealth regarding data sharing, and I understand that conversations with the Commonwealth Education, Health and the Commonwealth are underway. Given that there wasn't a broad-scale exemption, as I think has had some public ventilation, we invested some funds in supporting preschools to enable them to do some of that work manually. So there was some effectively release time for directors, although some of them might have used that funding for purposes that served their site better, to enable them to support families to try and find their documentation. And indeed, there are some small cohorts of students where we believe that they've been immunised but still are unable to identify records, and I think that this might include students on the lands, students who are coming into or coming out of guardianship, where exemptions are still the order of the day to ensure that their well-being needs are not diminished in any way.
With that answer, we've reached the conclusion of the agreed time